Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where today's most exciting solopreneurs share their startup stories. They also deliver tangible strategies that they would implement personally if starting their business over today. Each episode is a startup masterclass. Make sure you take notes. Take it away, Kevin.
This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest tonight is Caroline LePron. Caroline, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I had just talked to your husband 2 days ago, so it was kind of the LePron family week that we get to interview both of you, and it's really rare that you have two startups in a family at one time. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and then talk about your company.
Yeah. So yes, I'm Caroline. I'm 35. I've been living in Sydney for 12 years now. And before that, I used to live in Mexico for a year and a half. And before that, I used to live in France. So I've been out of France for like almost more than a third of my life. So it's very difficult to know what, like when people ask me like, where are you from? It's like, where am I really from? It's quite a tricky one now. Where is home? So I've been, I went to Mexico and here for my studies. I did an exchange student in Mexico, and after I came to Australia by mistake, just because I sent my resume to the States, to Canada, and I must have sent it to Australia because someone contacted me and said like, hey, I have an internship for you because you speak French and Spanish and I need someone to start in the next 5 days. Can you come? And I was like, where is Sydney? I didn't even know where it was on the map. And 5 days later, I was on the plane and came to Sydney. So it was quite interesting. And for me, I'd been so many times to San Diego, and I was thinking that I would live all my life in San Diego. And when I arrived in Sydney, I was like, oh, it's like San Diego.
It is.
But I thought like, yeah, it's like San Diego, but with maybe more business opportunity when you're younger, like even more like as a backpacker at this time. You can really find a lot of jobs very quickly. As like in France, you could never be a waitress or anything like that. It's not the kind of job what you can do as a student. And came for internship, and it's been 12 years. So I finished my study here after, and started to work. I was specialized in event management and work in event management, and tried many type of company, from public to private to small to big. And I was always trying to make things better, things faster. And people were like, no, just do your job. And I was like, yeah, but we can do this better. They're like, no, just do your job. I was like, oh, like, you know, when you feel like no one really understands you. And and after I've been started like maybe 5 years ago, I was just starting to think about project, and my aim was always like, how can we make the planet better? And it was like, why obesity is a big issue. Like obesity in Australia is as big as America, and I had no idea, because when you live by the beach, you don't really see that.
Right.
And even more when you come from France, like we've been lucky to have like a very good canteen system, and it's almost free or sometimes free. And when you arrive here, like you realize what kind of food they have available. And if your parents don't give you a very good meal, like you have no chance to like have a healthy nutrition. And so I started with a lot of ideas, from rooftop gardens to improving the school canteen to marketplace for lunch for parents, for the one between they have time and the one who don't have time. I ended up doing a marketplace for commercial kitchen space, because I realized that when people want to order food, for example, from another family, they couldn't cook from home because of a regulation.
Right.
And at this time, I met my co-founder, and he was doing a marketplace for kitchen space, and I joined him on that. And we spent 2.5 years on this. It was going well. We did one of the biggest accelerators in Australia. We got selected to do a program called the Landing Pad in San Francisco. So I told my husband at this time that he should leave his very big job, and we took a 1-year-old little girl and we moved to San Francisco, just because I was thinking that we can make a startup big and raise money, and you could find a job over there. And so maybe a year and a half ago, we moved to San Francisco, and I met half of San Francisco in my meetings and realized that it was just too difficult to just do anything with the startup that I had at this time. I learned a lot of lessons, met amazing people, but I was not able to expand the business there. One, for insurance purposes, it was just way too expensive to even start. And after, it was also very difficult to raise money. And my husband didn't find a job. So after 3 months, we had to pack a life again and we had to fly back to Sydney. So that was before. And then when I come back to Australia, my co-founder told me that he was leaving the business. And I was like, oh no, like I'm sure we can do something about it. He was like, no, think of it, I'm out. And now I was thinking it was still opportunity in marketplaces, and I was thinking that there's something to do about photo shoots and locations. And that's how my current startup started. So it's called Skoutli, and we do locations for photo shoot. And how we different from others is we do by the hour. So if you're a producer, an influencer, or photographer, you can just rent out a kitchen, a swimming pool, or a bathroom, and just for 1 hour or two, or a full day, depending on what you need.
This was back. If you go back to like your event coordination or event management degree, I mean, that tracks very well with that. So when did the idea really kind of formulate, and the first person or two that you told, did they look at you like, what? You want to do what? was there a kind of were they very skeptical?
I think most of them were like, oh, I think I understand this one better than the kitchen. Many people had no idea why we will do a business of commercial kitchen. So I think everyone was like, maybe. And the good thing is, because I'm not building my platform, I'm using a off-the-shelf marketplace. I could just have it live very quickly, and very quickly I've been able to push it. And I got some producer contacting me and say, like, they put it on Facebook, like when I told about the business on a big group, they're like, oh, where have you been all my life? I've been looking for it. And that's the kind of result where you're like, oh, you just launched and someone tell you this. And
exactly.
It seems
like I love that. So tell me, are there did you have competitors, or are you really starting this? I mean, is this a new space because it's hourly?
Yeah, so they are people that are doing for the full house hourly. There are people that are doing for the full house for a full day, but most of them are focusing on like movies, big productions, but no one are focusing on what I think like the creative industry is shifting. And I think there's much more influencers, producers that have so the influencers, what's interesting is micro and mini influencers are getting more and more budget to do shoots. So they can start spending money to have a better location, because the issue is, if you want to create good content, you cannot just shoot in your room every day. And you can ask that many friends, but at some point you run out of good location. So we start from for $20, you can have a beautiful living room or a beautiful room, so you can just do the shoot that you need. And also on the other side, the producer, the big production company, they've been getting less and less money for their shoots. And so for them, trying to find something, most of the time they tell me, like, we book a full house because we have no other option, but we really need the living room or the kitchen for a shoot. And so if you can provide that, and of course we give them also another room where they can get all their makeup artists and everything, but the only room that they just book the only room where they're shooting from. And at least they can spend much less budget. And what we changed recently as well is when you book by the room, by the hour, we also change the price according to how big is the crew. So if you are a small producer or a small influencer with only a few people, like less than 6 people, it's the rate is very reduced, as like if you come for like a very big ad. So
it's almost like Airbnb meets location, like meets settings. I mean, so all the transactions are going through your website, right? The financial transactions are going through your website. And I'm assuming your business model is you take a percentage of whatever the rate is.
Yes, that's correct, 15%.
So when did this start? when did you launch, and what kind of walk us through how it's been since you launched?
Yeah. So I will say that we did a soft launch almost a year ago now, and uh, we've been able to get bookings quite quickly. That was interesting. Like from month one, we got some very interesting booking. But what I realized is I was expecting to make this kind of transaction revenue type, but I was expecting more bookings. But I was making much less booking, but the same revenue that I was expecting, just because it was much more like producer using us. And that took me a month to realize that my target market, the price per room was too expensive. And but because I had no idea, like I knew exactly how much I could charge for a commercial kitchen, but when people were asking me like how much should I charge for a bathroom, I had no idea. So it was tricky at the beginning to tell people like people were like asking me like, so how much do I charge? And I was like, I don't know. So until like probably Christmas time, we've been able to think about like, okay, we should change the pricing model. And when we changed the pricing model, we're starting to get more inquiries. And after we got the fires, so it was like many of us should get canceled just because of like visibility and people not traveling. And finally in March, everything was picking up again. Everyone was like, for us, we have like the Christmas time is like December, January is very quiet in Australia. So we only got a few shoots then. And March was finally the time that it did pick up. We got a lot of inquiries. And when the booking was supposed to happen, we got into lockdown and we had to cancel everything. So now I'm looking, I'm taking this time to, we're changing the platform. So it's going to look amazing in the next few weeks. And we're going to do a proper launch finally with what people want. And now we have more than 2,000 locations onto our platform, and we're getting more. Wow. So at least when people come on it, they can find exactly what they want. And we're going to make the filters and everything better. Right. So people don't spend too much time trying to find it. And I think the biggest issue for many of our platforms is they don't show the price. So people have no idea. Like when they go to the platform, even in Europe, they don't show the price, or in the US they show the price but they show the full house. So if you just, for example, want a kitchen and you want a kitchen that's red, you have to look at all the picture of whole the house to be able to find the kitchen, and you have to rent out the full house. And that's where I think that's going to be a strength, is just to book what you want.
So when you first started with this idea, did you do some kind of focus group testing, or did you what was kind of the research that you did before you actually launched?
Yeah, so for me, I tried to ask people around me if I knew someone that needed a place for photo shoots or anything, like what kind of issue they had. And I've been able to speak with a few people. I will say that looking back, probably not enough people, but sometimes when you think you're on the right track, I was thinking I would test it out and see. But I was speaking with people who were telling me that for their photo shoot, they wanted a beautiful bed. They made they do like little pillows with lavender inside and things like this. They have to rent a full hotel room for a night to just do 2 hours of photo shoot of a bed. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And some other people were doing like new bikinis and new like lines of like leggings and things like this. And they are telling me that they had to rent out a full Airbnb for the night to have this beautiful swimming pool. But because the swimming pool was beautiful, the house was expensive. And I was like, wow, like I'm sure people will just rent out the pool because they can still be in their house. And that's where like we're also very different, is not everyone has a spare house or a spare bedroom to rent. So we're also bringing very different people than Airbnb, because Airbnb, it's only one type of person that can afford to have a spare bedroom. But you don't have many spare bedroom, but you can rent out a spare house. But at least even as well, like some people don't want to have strangers sleeping in their place or coming into their place to share their beds or anything. And the good thing is now like they can just come and really just use the kitchen for the day and leave. And one of our best location already made more than $5,000 just by renting a kitchen. And she has 4 kids at home, but she just does the shoot when they go to school and she goes to work. They come and do the shoot, and she can just make money, and she comes back and everything is clean, and and like nothing, and she just make extra money.
So what all is included in the package? I mean, I'm assuming that I would have to tell you, if I was the one that owned the home, I would tell you what my availability would be, like what
Mhm.
hours it's open, or you could be booking it. But also, like when they leave, um, is cleaning part of the package too, or do you just ask people to leave it in good shape when they leave, or what's the kind of the other benefits?
Yeah, they have to leave it as clean as they found it. So, and usually with shoots, it's not like party time. They
Yeah,
usually come, there's few people, there's usually a crew, and they're usually not that dirty anyway. And if they
right.
are, like, we show them like where they can find like the cleaning equipment, or and everyone who comes pay a $500 deposit. So if they don't leave it clean, we take it from the deposit. And if it's anything bigger, anything missing, anything broken, we cover. We have a very good insurance cover to make sure
Hmm.
that in case if anything goes wrong, that's something that we learned from the previous business, is making sure that yeah, everyone is covered, so
Yeah.
everyone feels safe.
So do they have to be home most of the time, or can people just go and use it otherwise? I mean, I guess the homeowners have to be there or not?
No, they prefer that you're not home.
Okay.
even, even more when if it's, for example, like if they are recording sound, they prefer that like you're not moving things around, or and also sometimes they have to move furniture or they have to move things, and usually if the owner is there, they're looking and they're asking questions. Um, like because everything is safe and they pay a deposit if anything goes wrong, like depending on the size as well, like if they only booking the kitchen, of course you can be in your house. If they booking the full house, they prefer you not to be in the house.
Right.
um, if they booking the swimming pool, you can definitely be in the house, that's not a problem. um, but yeah, depending of what type of shoot and what type of noise level they need to have, yeah, you can be or not be in your house. But sometimes they just leave the key like in a padlock outside, or or they meet the person on the morning when they come to the shoot. They give them the keys, they explain them how to close the door, where to find things, and they go. And so
Right.
that's how it usually happens.
So you mentioned a minute ago about March, you had all these bookings, and then COVID-19 or the coronavirus hit.
Yes.
So walk us through a little bit, like how have you kind of pivoted a little bit in your business to deal with the virus, and how have you kind of navigated those waters a little bit?
Yeah, so far what we've been doing is making sure that we were putting some new procedure in place and trying to understand like different stage of lockdown and what can you do, and making sure that following the regulation. Most of us should were cancelled, but starting to see that like for us, the numbers are very good for corona, and they just come down. We only had a few new cases in the last few days, so shoots can still happen, but we want to make sure like we show how to be extremely safe. So what
Hmm.
we're putting in place is like, no, you will have to go with like booties on, and like gloves and mask and glasses, and uh, something on a gown.
Hmm.
So everyone who is coming with equipment, like they have new procedures, like they're not allowed to share their meals anymore. Like, before they used to have like share plates. Now they need to all bring their plates. They need to all keep the same equipment all the time. And the number of crew is reducing. The number of, like, we have to make sure that, like, for example, the model, or if there is a few, like, safe distancing, like, we try to, we made a list of like which houses are completely empty, so
Hmm.
at least we know that they are safe to go in. So trying to only shoot in places that are or empty, or at least with making sure that like no one is at risk in the home. um, yeah, so for us it's like trying to put new procedure in place, but also like focusing on that, but also using this time to do all the things that we haven't been able to do for the business, like making the platform better, making a customer support better, like working on a PR and a marketing. So
Hmm.
we're using this time to, I've been able to I just closed a small pre-seed round from friends, family, and fools at the worst time. So now I feel like I can raise at any time because if you can close some money now, so with this money as well, like finally I'm able to spend money on things that I've been bootstrapping. So I'm going to be a bit doing PR and marketing. So the aim is to prove that we can grow all of Australia quickly, and we do a lot of strategic partnership and prove what kind of partnership can work here and what can replicate next. We're aiming to go next to Europe. So, and after when we know what we're doing in Europe, we then go to the States.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was your plan for world domination, with Skoutli? I mean, I can see in your eyes that, you're not going to stop at Australia. You have bigger plans than that.
Oh, it's go big or go home. Like,
exactly.
I tried that with Cookie too, and he was like, we went big, and I was like, okay, I learned my lessons. I'm going home, but I will be back one day. I will be back.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. And my next question I was going to ask you, you may have already answered, but if you could just maybe drill down a little bit, like, since you've been a multiple startup founder, you've started more than one company. So if you were talking to somebody just getting started, what are one or two really foundational steps that you would tell them to help them navigate this difficult time right now with the coronavirus? What's one or two steps that you think would be really helpful to somebody that's really facing a difficult time right now?
Something in general that I will tell them, Corona or not, is make sure that you find customer before you build. Mm-hmm. And I can see so many people all the time, like spending so much money in tech development, and after they're like, okay, now how do we get customers? Like, no, that doesn't work this way. Like, and I think it's a good time because people are usually too busy to speak to you, and Corona puts people down, but people have time. They open. Like, I've been sending LinkedIn requests to producers 6 months ago. They finally accepting now.
Exactly.
Like, they just slowing down. So making sure that like you just ask people. Like, many people are also afraid of asking, but if you don't ask, you don't know. And that's always my thing, is like, what's the worst that can happen? And if you think like that, you usually realize that you're not going to die. And okay, Corona is different, but like if you stay safe in your home, you can contact so many people and really understand like what you're doing. Also, many people tell me like, oh, I have this amazing idea. And I was like, yeah, I know 5 people that tried that before. Like, no one tried. Not like, oh, have you even like researched it? And I think right now with internet, it's so easy to be able to see who is doing what. Like, people telling me that they have no competition when they do, like not doing their research properly. And you can do your research in any country from your computer in your bedroom. So it's very simple. So don't build before you know that you have customers. Make sure that you do your research properly, and try to use something that already exists. Like, even the first year in business, I'm still using an off-the-shelf marketplace. And right now I'm just building on top of it. Mm-hmm. I will only wait for my seed round to be able to, when I know exactly what my customer wants from like 18 months of like speaking to them, that I will build from that, because there is no point to spend so much money. And by being so lean as well, I will know exactly like what my customer are doing on my, like, speak to them because they have issues. But by speaking to them, like, many people try to automate everything too early and they miss all the issues, all the gold that the customer could tell them. Like, oh, like, I think some people tell me like, oh, it's good that you do by the room, by the hour, but I want a full house for a full day. But I cannot see on your website like where, like, I want a full house. Like, can I do that? And now in the new release, we just offering full house, full day, because some people want that. Yeah. But yeah, if I don't speak to them, I don't know. And I think that's would be like the main thing.
I think that is great advice. Absolutely. And I think, I mean, you could have been very easily been very pessimistic. I mean, in what happened in March and April, with your bookings, I mean, virtually closing down, so to speak. But I mean, I love the idea of just really kind of drilling down and really focusing on procedures and listening to your customers and talking to people. Those are great hints. Those are great tips for people to follow right now. So is there anything that we haven't touched on today that you want to just close us with, and then just tell people where to find you online?
Maybe something just about the point before. Sometimes people research about like how long it will take to achieve something. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes it's also good to not know, because if I will know that the previous business took me 2.5 years to finally close it down, and this one took me a year to finally get to a point where I was hoping to be in 3 months, like it's good to also be too positive.
Yeah,
because,
right.
It's tough because you go to like huge ups and downs. Entrepreneur, and I'm creating a network of female entrepreneurs around me. It's so useful because it's so difficult as a female entrepreneur to see other female entrepreneurs doing it. Like so many people are speaking about it, but not really female entrepreneurs are doing it. And it's really good when you really get a close group of people that understand you, because your normal friends usually don't get it. Like they don't understand why you're working so much for no money. Like it's just crazy.
Exactly. And you're doing it both. You're doing it twice.
Yeah. And with a 2-year-old at home, like she's not only at home, like but yeah, like I also like for female entrepreneur, like making sure that like having a baby in a startup, it's possible. Like I had too many people that told me it was not, and I got pregnant after a few months joining my previous startup. I think it's very important that the woman decide if she thinks it's possible or not. It's possible, but only if you want to. Mm-hmm. Like don't let anyone tell you like what you should do or not. Like if you feel like you want to stay home and do just taking care of your baby, it's a full-time job already, so you can do that. But if you feel like you can just do it, and for me it was for my sanity. I knew that like 24 hours with baby would make me crazy, but at the same time, the first 6 months, Sophia was so like simple, like, and when they're small, like they don't roll. Like she used to come to the office and sleep on my desk, and she used to like sleep and feed, and I will just go for a walk and sleep, and I went to like a program in Asia, and they told me like my co-founder couldn't go, and I was like, okay, I'm going. And we're like, but you have a baby that you're breastfeeding. I was like, yeah, can she come with me? And they were like, investors in Asia and you're going to bring a baby? I was like, can I? And they said yes. I went to like Tech in Asia in Jakarta with Sophia, and people like seeing a white person with a baby in a pram going through Tech in Asia was like, oh, she's crazy. But at the same time, like I realized that like people really like that, and when they see that, they tell their wife that like she could do it. And I think for us to have like Melanie Perkins to really be a super amazing female entrepreneur in Australia shows that like, yes, you can be a female CEO, you can have a big startup. And that's something that I want to make sure that we tell a lot of women, because it's very difficult when you don't have a role model to think that you can do it.
Well, you're certainly doing it, and I mean, it's just fun to kind of watch from a distance, just to see how your startup is kind of gaining some traction and some momentum, and we're just anxious to see what it does in the future. So, where's the best place to find you online?
Skoutli, SKOUTLI.com. Very easy. We're going global from the beginning.
Skoutli.com, not com.au. It's com.com.
.com. Yeah. And after like on social media and everything, it's Skoutli, sometimes with double E at the end. But if you type Skoutli, you will find us. Yeah. And if anyone needs anything, they can find me on LinkedIn. Easy to find, and I usually try to respond to as many people as I can.
Yeah, she's very good at responding. She responded to my crazy request to come on the show. So, Caroline, thank you so much for just taking the time today. It's been great just catching up with you and Jacques as well earlier this week. And we'll just be anxious to see how this progresses and how the startup family of Australia does in the next few years. And just thanks for playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Appreciate your help.
Thank you. thanks a lot for spending all the time speaking to crazy founders as well.
Love it all the time. Take care.
Another episode in the books. We hope you heard some great takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on iTunes and YouTube. As always, thanks for listening to Rising Tide.